if I can stay above those numbers, those parameters that I shared with you, that in my opinion has proved that I've earned the ability to size up. Yeah, so I appreciate the time. I've been trading for coming up on a year. It's kind of it's tough to put an exact date on it because I started off like very kind of casually and disorganized and really didn't know what I was doing. That could almost describe what I'm doing now too, but to a lesser extent. I'm starting to kind of make some sense of what I should be paying attention to, what I should be working on, things like that. I'll tell you that in the last approximately like 9 to 11 months that I've been trading, I've been 100% totally obsessed. It's just in my personality where I'm either all in or I give zero shits, right? And so trading has fallen into that category. I am all in. I've shared this with my wife. I've talked about it with her, which, she does her best to kind of act engaged and things like that. But she's over it really. She can't really relate. And so I really think that I would benefit from starting to talk to some traders. And so that's why I set up this call. That's also why I reached out to Bosco, who was on your podcast a couple months ago. Yeah, so
I like
Bosco and I talked. The guy's great. The guys helped me. So we talked last Wednesday, I believe, and significant results already. The biggest one is I'm now part of Scott's group, V Traders, right? And so
he's also been on the show. He's a great guy. Scott's a great guy.
Yeah. So I've seen him and I've talked to him a little bit, and so I really feel like I'm getting somewhere now because it was lonely before. I was literally like trying to get my friends to start trading just so I could talk about trading with somebody.
Right? Yeah.
Like I don't even care if you lose all your money. Just let's talk about bull flags and shit, right? So because my wife is just like she's over it, right? And so I just kind of like I guess the reason that I wanted to set up this call is first of all to talk about trading. And then also to kind of talk about my strategy and see, I'm hoping that somebody can start kind of poking some holes in it because it feels like kind of strong to me, but I know like your little saying process over profits. I live by that. I have a good job. I have money. I could be over PDT today if I wanted to, but I'm not ready to. I'm not going to lose money. I have a family, I have a daughter. So
makes sense.
I trade with extremely, extremely small size, right?
Smart.
And so the way that I kind of measure my success is I use Trader Sync.
Yep.
And so kind of the golden number for me, and I know that this number can be drastically different for different people, but I'm trying to stay at a profit loss ratio of 3-to-1 or better with a win ratio or win rate of 30% or high, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I'm gauging my success. So with that said, I'll try not to jump around too much here. Real quick, I'll say entering V Traders has been totally mind-blowing with their use of trend lines, right? Yeah. And I noticed in some of your trading that you do trend lines a lot. Because I went through the phase where I tried every single indicator, right? I tried doing them all at once. I tried doing them all one at a time.
I think we've all been there.
Right. And like a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, dude, I'm done. I'm doing and I made this decision. And then after I made this decision, I remembered that you said, like, you just trade price action, right? I can't even see the price action with all these damn, EMA lines and all this stuff. So I took it all off, and that made a big difference, right? I'm buying at support, selling at resistance, essentially. I only go long because I'm under PDT. But the use of trend lines is something that was very secondary to me until last week when I joined VTrader. And just my perception is it's like primary for them, right? And since then, I've been using trend lines like crazy, long-term, hourly, 5 minute, 1 minute, the strong trend line, the mini trend lines within that trend line. It's been crazy. It makes so much sense because it gives you a clear entry. It gives you a clear stop loss, like trailing stop, right? It gives you relatively clear exits. I mean, because one of my biggest problems was maximizing my wins, right? And knowing when something is going my way, knowing when it's not going my way anymore, or this is a healthy pullback that is required for it to get to my profit target, right? And so kind of like, when I was on a good streak, I've had streaks of a lot of green days in a row. I'll be in that mentality where I can hold things more long term, and then I'll have 1 or 2 red days, and the next thing you know, I'm getting shaken out of everything, right? I'll say a couple more things and then I'll shut up. My stop loss tends to be very, very tight, very tight. And what I did up until recently, I stopped doing this, but what I did for a long time is I would have a tight stop loss. I would add maybe a half to a quarter of my size. My full size is like 20 shares. I mean,
Gotcha.
Very small. And then as it would go down, I would add until like literally it's like 2 or 3 pennies above my stop loss, because either I get lucky and it reverses and I'm in with good size with really good risk to reward, or I get stopped out, but that extra size that makes me a little nervous is very close to my stop loss, right?
Yes.
Recently, I kind of started getting away with it, and I started getting back to like, stop adding to shit that's not going your way, right? And start adding like at retests of the trend line, right? This is working. Your idea was working. So now add to it, don't add when it's not working type thing. And so that's kind of, I guess, the intro. So what I'd like to go over too is I have my whole process. It's not that long, but I wanted to just kind of read out like what a morning looks like to me, how I set up.
Go for it.
But if you want to go first and respond to anything I've said, cool.
So I want to hear everything, but what stands out to me though is it sounds like you're on the right track. It sounds like you're working through the process correctly, and it sounds like you're trying to, if I hear you correctly, you're trying to find ways to make it better and just tweak what you're doing. And part of that sounds like the sizing portion, as well as like maybe stops, but I guess we'll get into that the further you get in. So go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So just real quick on sizing, my plan is if I can stay above those numbers, those parameters that I shared with you, that in my opinion has proved that I've earned the ability to size up again from about 20 shares.
Yep.
And it's tough to I don't really go so much by shares. I'm more go by dollar amounts. So like a couple of weeks ago, I said, I'm done taking any single trade loss over $5, right? Yep. I mean, really, really small.
No, you're good.
And so once after a month, I've maintained those parameters, I'll double that. And I'll say my max loss per trade now is $10.
Yep.
And I'll keep doing that as I gradually move up. Once I hit 30K, I'll start considering, margin, PDT, all that stuff. Yep. But for now, I have a cash account of about 22K.
Yep.
I trade approximately half of it per day, so that I can trade every day unlimited, right?
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, smart.
Yeah, works great. I mean, the limited to like 3 weeks, no, I can't even do 3 an hour sometimes, It's like, I'm trying to make it here,
Yeah. 3 a week is nuts.
Yeah, it's such bullshit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so cool.
I've gotten banned so many times from E-Trade when I first started.
Yeah.
It's a complete lot.
When I started, I had Fidelity, and just like my first day, make like 8 trades in the first day, just having no idea about anything. Tiny trades, but yeah, they kicked me out of there for like a week or two. So I'm like, all right, I guess I got to kind of figure out what the hell I'm doing here. So one more thing I'll say. I think that I've learned, I started where everybody starts, where all you think about is what you can make.
Yeah.
Then you mature as a trader and you start saying, no, what's important is think about what you can lose, right? Risk needs to be the
Yes.
priority. That was around this May, right? And since then, I feel like I've almost obsessed with that. Maybe too much so. Maybe so much so that I'm like afraid to kind of size up and afraid in certain cases. But anyway,
Okay. I understand.
so my process. So I get up. I'm in Arizona, so I
Nice.
wake up at about 5:30 with my wife gets up, starts getting ready for work. Our daughter's about 2 years old, so she's getting up. I give her a bottle, and then I hook up with one with Humble Trader. So
Yeah,
she's
she's
been on
she's a
too.
good
Yeah.
girl. I like her.
So I've that's another thing. I've done a lot of different classes. Like I've spent money like getting proper education. I've done tons on YouTube, but I've done Humble Trader, Investors Underground, Clay Trader, a lot, right?
Yeah.
And they've all taught me a little bit, and they're all helping me like build my process. But I stuck with Humble Trader because I feel like their pre-market video is very helpful to me. I feel like our trading style is similar,
Okay.
and so it's of value to me hearing what stocks she and her team are looking at every morning.
Okay.
So I'll watch their pre-market video. I'll determine from that what stocks are in play. That's kind of my primary way of finding stocks.
Okay.
Until about last week. Now Scott also his pre-market is obviously of huge value, so I'll see what Scott's looking at.
Yep.
Another guy that I've been watching here and there, I went through his course at one point as well, but Boiler Room Trading, his name's Connor. He has some interesting takes on some things, so I'll check in with him and watch his YouTube live stream sometimes. Then something I've been doing recently, which is extremely rewarding, which is finding technical setups on my own using FinViz. And they've been working. And I mean, nothing feels better than when you find that shit yourself, right? And it works. So there's those. And then lastly, I'll look at continuation plays. So something that maybe I traded the day before, I'll look for continuation. So that's kind of how I build my watch list, right? And then I'll come to the computer. Then my wife's done getting ready, so she'll come get the baby, get her dressed for school, and then I'll come to my desk. And I essentially have, on days that I take her to school, I have from about 6:15, which is 8:15 market time, to about 6:50. And then I take her to school. So I kind of trade the open, and then I have 15 minutes where I'm taking her to school, and then I'm back, right? But anyway, when I have my watch list, I come and sit down, I look at those stocks, I look at important levels. So I look at long-term or daily trend lines, right? Especially recently. I look at recent, like the last 10 to 20 days in like a 15-minute chart or something. And then I look at daily resistance levels too, right? So like trend lines, horizontal or trend lines, and then, obviously
resistance
horizontal
support.
Yeah, resistance and support. I'll kind of map all that out. And then I'll also map out pre-market highs and lows. I don't trade pre-market or aftermarket. Then essentially market opens and I watch price around those levels. And if price is telling me, whether it be through level 2 or volume or just like a bounce, that level is as important as I thought it was, then I'll go long. And I'll typically go long, risking ideally the previous low on the 5-minute, but I struggle with discipline, and sometimes I'll just say, I'll take the previous low on the like 1 or 2 minute. So stops are typically very close. That's how I answer.
Yeah.
I take a small profit quickly to do, and I notice Scott does this, to mitigate or significantly limit risk on the trade. So sometimes, I can take all risk off immediately. Even then, I struggle holding for the big move. And then I try to have, this is like my biggest problem. I try to have discipline to hold if it's staying over the 5-minute 9 EMA.
Okay.
If it wicks below in some cases, or if it closes below in other cases, I'll tend to get out. But if it stays above, I try to hold to my next significant risk level. So that kind of, in a nutshell, is what I do.
Okay, awesome. I mean, it sounds like you have an idea of what you do, right? And it sounds very thought out.
Yeah.
That's good, because I'll talk to some people and they'll be like, yeah, I just like to buy, like they'll just say something simple, but they don't really have a process to find it or what they're actually looking for. So I guess, what's your main question then?
Yeah. So now I have problems, right?
Yeah.
And so, so an example for a problem, and I put this in my notes, I'm having trouble distinguishing if I have edge or if the market is heating up and it's just kind of getting easier, right? And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I had a really good day. So yesterday, I mean, I was really proud yesterday. I was feeling good coming in today, and the market's like, yeah, you ain't shit, you know. Get over yourself.
Of course. Yeah, that's what it does.
Yeah, like it often does. The fuck do you think you are? All right.
Yeah. Okay,
so,
kid.
yeah. Nice try. So yesterday I had a profit and loss ratio of 3.6 to 1 with a 40% win rate, right?
Nice.
I can make money doing this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the numbers that I'm looking for, right? Really good day. Now, the other thing with yesterday is my winners. I mean, had I stayed in without it, before anything got below the 9 EMA, I mean, I would have, this would have been nothing. It would have been huge numbers. I traded like Mara, I traded Plug, I traded Fastly, FSLY, I think it is. And if you look at those moves, I mean, I had really good entries. And my entries have got better recently. But I keep getting out too soon. And so I think, I guess to answer your question, like my first question, or the first thing that I'd like to talk about is, does it sound like I have a good plan in terms of when to get out of a trade?
It sounds like you've thought about when to get out. You've said that it's either because I'm getting in near a trend line is where my entry is going to be, and I'm risking a prior level in the 5-minute of a low, or the prior 5-minute low. And sometimes, although you do not do that and you risk the 1-minute prior low, and that can kind of mess you up, it sounds like, or get you shaken out of unnecessary moves. And then, but you also said that you trail the one of the EMAs, or the 4-minute or 5-minute EMA that, or the 9 EMA that when it starts to really extend, you'll trail that and watch that to cut. So it sounds like you have an actual process to protect yourself, right? Which is really good. And when it comes to that, I think that's very important. So I think you're doing on the right track when it comes to like making sure that, you know, to get into a position, you also know where your stop is, but then your profit targets, as you mentioned, are at key levels on the chart, whether it's like a resistance area or a prior consolidation, whatever it may be, you're going to be taking profits along the way, or you have to take profits because you're already up and it's hitting your 9 EMA. So you get out. So you have a process, which is good. And you're always looking for, on the big picture you mentioned on the daily, like you explained everything to me that sounds like you know what you're looking for. And so that's good. Now you just keep doing that. And so like, that's all you got to do. And now you mentioned something earlier, way earlier. You said there's days in a row where I'm just doing great. And then I have 1 or 2 bad trades. And then I just, all of a sudden, I don't remember what you said after that, but it sounded something like my memory kind of gets the gist of like, it kind of just kind of falls apart for a little bit. And then you got to pick it back up. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I build confidence and I hold on to trades like I should when I have green days.
Yes.
I have 1 or 2 red days. Next thing you know, I can't hold for the full move anymore. But the thing is, like today, for example, that's what I was going to contrast. So So yesterday was great, but then today sucked. And like what I learned yesterday, like you're getting out before it breaks below the 9 EMA on the 5 minute. You're getting out too soon. You could have made so much more on these trades. So I come in today and I say, all right, that's the goal today. Do what you're doing, but do not get out unless it breaks the 9. And then today, nothing trended. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's just the stocks that I traded. But really, I guess, like, if we were to look for a question here, like, do you feel like the market overall and price action overall was different from yesterday to today?
Oh, yesterday and today? I would say for sure it's been different in the past couple of weeks. Like for sure, like it's been a dramatic difference. Certain plays just don't work for me right now.
Right.
So that's a fact. In terms of yesterday and today, with what I was trading, I didn't feel that. I felt like yesterday was very well. Here's the thing: in this market, in my opinion, it's very range bound, and there's not a lot of volatility for me.
Right.
There was some today, like HX skyrocketed, like, but there hasn't been a lot of that. And that's been different. And so profit taking could be different, like you might have yesterday. Was it yesterday? We had some, I don't know if it was yesterday, but I know we've had some big long moves the past couple of days, maybe on Thursday or Friday. And maybe yesterday. So I definitely know that's still possible. But here's the thing. I mean, if you're doing a strategy for 3-to-1, right? Which is something that I used to do all the time. That's all I did. And that helped me a lot. And now as I'm trying to grow as a trader, I'm just trying to adapt and grow and trade different ways where now I'm not really focusing on that anymore. But here's the thing. Like, if you're focused on that, just know the year that I did that I only traded one setup, and it's just that I had 3-to-1 only. I'd only take profits at 3-to-1. I never cut it beforehand. Like, I've learned a lot of lessons since then. There's a lot of things I learned from that, but like what it enabled me is to actually become consistent and have a process and always do the same thing over and over and over. But that strategy sometimes, yours sounds like it appears more often, but mine would only appear maybe once a day, and sometimes on slow months, 5 times the entire month. So it's just like, you got to be disciplined. But then I might have 3 losers in a row, and it's that slow month where I've only had 5 trades for the entire month. That could really impact your next trade if you let it. And so that's something you're gonna have to learn to constantly stick to your plan, And here's the thing about planning: our plans, they do need to grow with the trade. Okay. So like I'm learning this now and how important it is. I was so strict on my plan. I was so strict on planning, which is really important once you understand that you can stick to a plan, right? Because there's so many people who can't even stick to a plan. Like, you'll have a plan and they'll just, I got out because it did this, but it never hit my stop. Or I got out here because I thought it was gonna come down, so I took profits, and then it goes to my profits. Like, they can't even stick to a plan. Yeah. There's one thing that was my problem. I couldn't even stick to one. I was always like in and out, in and out, in and out. I was just scared. I couldn't hold anything. And
that's me.
Once you, So then you need to go to the step of sticking to a plan no matter what, because you need to build that habit. But once you build that habit, the next thing is, I know this sounds, maybe someone, if I do air this, maybe someone will comment below their other take of how to say this, but the only way I can think about this, and this is just what I'm learning, maybe I was just everyone's path is different, right? Right. But like, it was stick to a plan no matter what. I don't know why I'm doing a graph. Stick to a plan no matter what. It's helpful. I'm with it. And then the next thing is going to be, after you stick to a plan, then once you know you got to learn to adapt the plan on the fly. Now that part, is probably, in my opinion, for me, it's a fact for me. It's the hardest part for me, because and that's maybe because I stick to the plan for so long, for like over a year and a half, that now that I'm trying to adapt in different strategies, like, I can't bring that that helped me in that strategy to this one.
Right.
And so I got to learn to it. And it's just like difficult. So that's something I'm like, you got to learn to not unlearn, but learn that, okay, I can stick to a plan, but now if the stock does X, Y, Z, like there might be all different scenarios, I can adjust this plan based on this, because the ultimate goal is what you said earlier, how you used to think. You said, I used to think that I want to, like, you know, something about gains or something like that, instead of worrying about
just think
risk.
about what you can make.
What you can make, yes. Instead of worrying about what you can risk. And here's the thing that I didn't think that. I was thinking, how can I not get shaken out of this trade? Because more times than not, from history, I've seen, and everything's impacted more when you're frustrated. But like, so it's possible it was just frustration. And I think I've seen it so many times that you get shaken out of moves that go your direction. And so I ended up saying, I'm only going to stop out of my risk when it gets hit. And because there's been so many times I get out before the risk and then it goes my direction. What you don't take into account is how many times you get out before the risk because maybe there was something that you noticed. And then the times that it does keep on going down and you saved yourself. Like, we keep track of the ones that hurt us a lot. Emotionally, it creates a memory rather than something that doesn't really happen like that. And you're just like, oh, I'm glad I protected myself. Like, you don't even think twice of that. Like, you know, it didn't make you anything. It didn't lose you anything. You just, you know, you got out. You're not like, oh, thank God. You know, you're not stressing over that every day. What you're stressing over is the one that you cut and then it goes your direction. So I think now that you're thinking about risk is very important, because this is a game, and I'm still in this for Michael Martin. He's a great friend of mine, podcaster himself. He wrote a book, Inner Voice of Trading. Great guy, great trader. He told me, Alex, you need to be, and he preaches this on his show. You need to be focused on superior defense. Like all the best traders, and he's been doing this for freaking ever. Focus on superior defense. And then I've talked to many traders like Nate Michaud and a couple other guys, and they've all said different things, but the underlining meaning, because I sometimes, you know, I'm thankful they're friends of mine over time, and I'm thankful to God that I meet all these people. But they've shared stuff with me and they're like, Alex, you know, you should do this, or you should be thinking this. But every underlining message was superior defense. And so that's something that you want to stay focused on. So I think you're right to focus on risk. And I think it's okay to, it's a fine line, but it is okay to get shaken out and to get stopped out, be tight risk. But there's a fine line of, are you too tight? Because before you give it time to decide if you're wrong. Like if you're too tight, as you mentioned before, where you'll get in and you should use a 5-minute lower low, but you use the 1 minute, whatever reason that is, whether it's because you don't want to lose, whether you think, you know, you just want to make big money, so you're sizing them bigger, you know, like whatever it is, figure out that, and then make sure you can at least stick to your initial entry plan, and maybe don't go in full size there, you know, like, because if you go in full size there, then maybe that's what's causing all those nerves, because then when you're wrong, you're always going to take a full size loss. You know what I'm saying? And this is something I'm adjusting myself, where I've done like at the beginning of my training, I used to always just full size, and that works. But there's a lot of trades you can get in and they start to work, and then they have so many other entry points to add in to your full size. Whereas there's a lot less trades where you just get in and just completely tanks, and you're just, or goes your direction if you're long, you know, skyrockets without you, and without any dips, without and you know when you don't know when you're right, okay, no one knows, but you know more that the odds are even more in your favor when it really starts to move, and you're like, okay, I wish I had more size, you know, like at that moment, maybe because you only sized in a quarter, you know, at that moment, as soon as it pops, maybe you can add a little bit into that pop because you only add a quarter, right? You add a little bit, then you can adjust your risk to a certain area, because now it's triggered that it's right. Like, if this breaks down now, you don't even want to touch it anymore, right? Because that's the move you're looking for. The question is the move sustainable?
Yeah. I always think about what I think Nate said it on your podcast, but he said it. Think about if you were in this trade already, where would you enter? When I'm in a trade and I'm looking to add, if I wasn't in it, what is a good entry? And I try to have that discipline
Yeah.
To not get in before then. But yeah, so a lot of that makes sense and that's very helpful. One of the biggest takeaways that I have from what you just said is it sounds like I'm tweaking my plan right now when I haven't even proved that I can stick to the plan, right?
Yeah.
There's no plan.
That's what it sounds like to me.
It.
Yeah.
Right.
You have no consistency.
Right.
If you keep now, like I have so much respect for, so if like if Nate watches this is like, no, Alex, that's completely incorrect. Or someone watches, they can give their opinion. That's totally fine. But it's just my opinion that you at least need to learn to stick to a plan.
Right.
Because if you can't learn to stick to a plan, then you may always be a little bit of everywhere. And you might have a lot of randomness. Now, if you're going to just always asterisk, if you're going to always buy it at the same level every time, at least that's consistent.
Right.
And then if you get shaken out, I mean, you could choose to always just, you know what, I'm just gonna get out because I don't like it every time. And that could be part of your plan, but you just need to know and got to be okay, which is really hard for me that I'm learning to do as well. I'm talking to myself right now, is that it's totally fine to miss the move after you get out. And that's something that you have to learn to be like, that just depends on which side of the table you're trying to go on. So if you're going to do that and constantly just get out because I have I don't feel too good about this trade, but it is my setup. I'm going to get in. I'm not going to hold to the 5 minute.
Right.
You can just know that you might get shaken out a couple of times, maybe 3 times, but you might need to be okay with jump back in if it does work, so that's a fight because you also don't want to fall into the zone of revenge trading. You see, there's so many puddles of water you can step into by trying to walk this line. And you have this rule, but this rule can easily become a puddle if you don't really if you're not really self-aware, right?
Sure.
Because there's one moment you can just take a loss and when you get upset, like you get a little angry, you get a fire or whatever it may be.
Today I was trading like an idiot and I knew it. I knew it.
Exactly.
And the market's like, there's no range. It's downtrending and all I do is go long. I'm in NASDAQ stocks. I'm in, stocks related to SPY and I'm going long in this stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? But, you hang on to that hope that this could be that one trade, it's setting up. You start convincing yourself that you're seeing things that it isn't there, And
it's because you're looking, like you said it clearly. It's like, that's the other thing. Like, we all want that big winner. You know what I'm saying? Like that one that just rockets. And it feels good too. Like when I nail along like that, I'm like, whew.
Yeah.
It feels great. But at the same time, I think, and this is what I've experienced, and you tell me if you can relate, but what I've experienced is I think the reason some difficulty in getting into a play, getting out and getting mad or trying to look for that is because we're always looking for that big mover. Where I think as other traders, and this is just an opinion, I think the guys who have been doing this way longer than me, the guys who literally just hands over fist money, they're doing phenomenal.
Yeah.
That they're more so thinking of the idea of like, this is a good big picture setup period. Like everything you look at, it's always big picture first before you touch the chart because you need to know what you're trading, right? What's the flow? What is there news? Whatever it may be. So you have the big picture idea. You jump into it. So there's a reason you're trading because you believe there's momentum in one or either direction. You think there's a move coming, right?
Yeah.
But the difference between I think me or a newer trader who is thinking about catching a move, right? And a trader who's been doing this for a long time is that trader, and this is my opinion, is the opportunity is here. I'm going to trade it. And it may never, they don't even think about it coming. They're just like, it may be a choppy stock. So I got to trade it different. I got to trade it like this. But if for some reason it flushes or goes rockets, if you're long, then awesome. Like, it's like, oh, great. I'm in this. Whereas I think people like I'm me for sure. as I'm new to longs, like I love longs. I'm finally getting my niche in that.
Yeah.
That I look for that long that's gonna freaking go to the moon. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I like writing those, and you get a couple of those under your belt, and then you start looking for them. And so, but I didn't. Which we need to remember is trade what you the price action. Listen to it, and those ones that really skyrocket. If you go look at those charts, that price action usually is beautiful, clean.
And that's how it was for me yesterday.
Yes.
But I kept jumping out because I didn't have confidence yesterday. And I'm getting out and I'm like staring at these stocks. I'm like, why did you get out of this? It was just getting started. I mean, I traded Mara yesterday after it dipped. And I got in like right around the dip at about $46. And it went, before breaking the 9 EMA, it was at 47.70, which for me is a big move, especially with the tight risk that I had on that. And then it reclaimed the 9 and didn't break again until like 48.40. It's like, this is your bread and butter. This is what you said you're going to do, but you don't do it. You get, 40, 60 cents. You get all excited and like run away with 40, 60 cents while, $3 I'm just sitting here watching it, and then every single time I'm like, all right, well, look for another entry, and then I'll get an entry, and then I'll get chopped out, and it's just like, you're right. I'm not sticking with the plan. I think I'm good enough to start messing with a plan that I haven't even fully assembled. Right.
And
so
you got to be able to withstand the move. You got to stay in it to get it, you got and not stay in it, like force it, like, because if there's a sign, like it just double topped and, and you're down, you got a great entry and it's already like you're 2 to 1 for you. And it just double topped with massive volume. You might want to get out, you might get faked out and it might squeeze and you're like, God, but that was a good sign to get out. Like there's no reason not to stay in.
Right. So, and I'm realistic, like I traded an AMC daily trend line breakout like last week.
Yeah.
AMC ripped, right? I got barely any of that, but I got some of it. So I knew something was coming, but I didn't I'm realistic. I'm not like, well, I should have held for that whole move, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, but I there's definitely a balance. Like I'm definitely getting way too little of these. My entries, like I said, they're getting better, but, I don't need to sell at the top, but I need to take a bigger chunk of this move, and so I need that plan that's going to, get me to do that.
If you're getting 3 to 1 already, though, like you mentioned that, I think you said that like yesterday was like 3 point something to 1, around 40% win rate.
3.6 to 1,
I think that's
win rate.
I don't know if why are you trying to get more than that? It seems like you're on the right track then.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to stay with that. See, we didn't get to today. So, I mean, pathetic. Today, I was on a decent streak, especially since talking to Bosco and joining V Traders. Today, it all fell apart. 18% win ratio with a 0.8 to 1 win rate, right?
Yep.
And that's not because of big losers. That's still me keeping losers under my max loss, which is $5. My biggest loser is $2.70 today.
Yep.
But I had no wins. I had no real wins. The only wins that I had were things that kind of went my way and then they fell apart. I'm like, I'm just going to get out of this.
Were you trading your setup?
So, yes.
No,
no, hold on. Damn it. See, it helps when you talk to somebody, right?
Yeah, the way you answered that, I already knew.
Yeah.
Because if I answered way, that means I did not stick to only my setup.
Right. I tweaked my setup again, right? Not like I should have. You're right. But that's like I put in the notes for this call. Like one of the things that I want to figure out is, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's just the stocks that I'm trading. But if I think about how the market traded yesterday and how it traded today, could not be more different. And I'm looking like, how can I measure that? How can I look at the SPY and say, this is going to be one of those days like today was where none of my shit works, right? Or how can it be like yesterday where my biggest problem is getting out of winners too soon, because maybe I need to look at it more. And I do look at my trades every day after trading. I haven't looked at today. So, I probably strayed away from it a little bit, but I feel like while there is fluctuation in what I'm doing, it's not significant, but I feel like the market around me yesterday compared to today is drastically different. So how do I know when it's a hot market for me and when it's not,
I don't think you'll ever like know, but I think you get a feel. I think you get a, I think, so I talk to Scott a lot. He's a good friend of mine, and my feel takes a little longer to kick in. Like maybe the market's shifted, right? And it might take me a week to fully recognize it. It takes him like 2 days. And then it takes someone like, younger in terms of trading years, maybe like a month, because they're just like, they don't know what they don't know. Like they haven't been part of the market long enough to realize that, holy crap, like this might be a month where nothing's going to work for me, and that's hard to find. I would say the spies, it won't just tell you, okay, it looks like this, it's always going to be this way. But I would say maybe look at it every day while you're trading. And then those days where you're just killing it, you can look at it and just remember that feeling. And then the days you're not, and you can look at it and you kind of build a feel, like a little indicator that kind of triggers like, ooh, it may not be, my strategy might not work today, because you only know it's going to work today based off your experience, based off what you see from the SPY on that day with your strategy, right? No one can tell you what that's going to be. You're going to learn that. But I think the other thing is you might have recognized that after maybe 3 trades a day, like you might have felt it. You might have like,
I did.
And that's,
I did. And I didn't do anything about it.
Yes. And that's the part that's tough for me, honestly, is on the day, whenever you feel it, instead of just saying, like, let me actually look at what's happening here. Am I getting wicked out? Is today a choppy market? Like, am I getting like wicked out of everything? And it's always just range bound, or are things super smooth and I'm just not used to that right now because everything used to be wicky, or maybe it just shit the bed or rocketed out of nowhere. We haven't had one of those. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to be prepared because it's possible now, So like
that was yesterday.
It's like recognizing that.
Yeah.
Hold on. If you recognize that, then you can maybe, how can I adjust my trading style to fit right now? And if that is, I don't know right now, then don't do anything. But if maybe I'll use wider risk, because I know this is a long, but I really don't know where to risk right now because this thing is just weird. But I know good entries, so I'll just enter at these dips or supports, and I'll have a wide risk where I might not make a lot. But I also won't get shaken out. And then maybe as the trade develops, it might have a clear area where it finally, because everyone's been playing where the hell is the top, or where the hell is the bottom. That it finally builds up and has a key area where it's just like, oh my God, I need to add when this breaks. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you're in a good position because you have good average already, and you add some. Now you're in a really good position. So like that's ways you could tweak, but just know that you might walk away that day with 50 cents, like 25 cents. But unless it does that, and then you can finally size in, and then you walk away with like a monster. So like, that's the other thing. Like we don't know, but you can position yourself, and you can do that every day. Like you can be like, I know this in my gut, like what I see based on the chart, my gut, everything, it's telling me this is a long. Right. PROG was that for me on like 2 days ago. I saw it. I've been focusing on swinging mainly, and I saw it and I was like, this is a beautiful swing trade. I just bought it. I didn't even look at the intraday. I just bought it on the daily, and it went up to freaking from $2.29 to $4 or $3.50, $3.40. And I was like, holy crap. But I didn't know where to risk at first. I just knew it was a long. So I just bought, and I used wider risk, and it ended up not get shaken out, So sometimes you might, when you do that, and then you can start to add to your winner. So try that too. Like the idea of, I think what's getting you nervous and shaken out is like you just sized in too much to a full size, and and you have no clue if it's going to work. You don't, and that makes you uncomfortable. But I know a lot of the big traders, they have multiple entries. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it's hard for them to size in without affecting the stock.
Right.
Some people, not everyone, but then the other people, it's also difficult to size in, like, let's say 10,000 or 50,000 shares, right? 50,000 shares near your stop. And if that thing freaking really does rocket, it's hard to piece out 50,000 shares rather than 5 shares, or 100 shares or 1,000. Because if something only has 10,000 per tick and you have 50,000 shares, you might be like 5 minutes up the chain. So they compensate for this, and they may do 5,000 here. And then, okay, it's working. It pop 5,000 more. Okay, it's working. Pop. I'm short thinking, but you know what I'm saying?
No,
like the
other
way.
I got you. Yeah.
That's what they're going to be doing. And you could do the same thing and train your brain, which I'm really focused on right now, doing that style where you start in, where to enter. So you start in right there with no sweat. Like if you're going to risk, let's say you say, is it $5 per trade, or that's a max? You don't want to lose $5.
Yeah. Under $5 per trade.
Okay. So if that's the case, and for easy numbers, if it's like risking 5 cents and you're going to stop no matter what, like you see key support at 110, $1.10, and you're going to get in on the dip at 115. All right. I'm sorry. You're going to actually get in at 110 because it's like panicking down. You're like, all right, I'm going to buy here at 110. If it breaks under 110, I should be wrong, but I'm going to give it 5 more cents because it could be a little wicky there. So I'm going to give it to 115. So I'll size in for 115, get entry at 110. And now only for a quarter size. So I'm not going to sweat it at all. Like, it's going to be like $1, it's going to be none of my main position. Right. And then if it starts to work in any shape or form, maybe I add another quarter, gets a half size. And then I'll give it a little time for it to rebuild up. And if it builds me a higher low, let me add a little more full size. And you can adjust your risk because at that moment it should be working. Right. And if it's not going to work, well, then it's not going to work. But if it's going to work, then now you're in a full position with a good average. And if it is going to work, you can actually hold it without losing as much as, if you just sized in all at once and it was a loser. At least you have some more confidence to buy more rather than if you go all in every time, then you might be scared to just entirely miss a trade because you don't even want to go in the next one because you're just like, I got to go a full lot right away. So could you imagine if you're risking, $10,000 in a trade? I can't, and then you first entry is 10 grand. Like I'm going to enter 10 grand. And if I lose 10 grand right away. And that would suck. So I think that's another part of it. Like these traders, they don't want to lose like Nate, he trades big size. So like, he's not going to want to lose 100 grand in one, here's my entry. I'm going to hit it. And I'm always got the best entry and I never get shaken out unless it's wrong. So I'm going to size in 100 grand loss. Yeah. Like that makes no sense because they know, and I'm hitting epiphany for myself, but they know that no one can time where the real top or the bottom is. Like we have ideas, we have support and resistance, but those areas, all they are, another way to say is supply and demand zones, right? Or just areas of interest, right? How many times have you seen something break below it and hover up and around it for a while and then finally go reverse? And, but that happens because it's not perfect. Like we're dealing with people, we're dealing with you and me, who aren't traders and they're not learning at all. And they're just buying and like, oh my God, like it's going up. I'm going to get out, or I'm going to get out a little bit and I'll buy some more. And then it dips a little bit more. Oh, I'll just get out. Oh no, it's going up. I'm going to buy more and then get out, and they have those stocks where they're always buying the top and selling the bottom, like they're just doing the opposite. Right. Whereas, you used to do that, right? Like, if you want to buy, am I on the right track here? Sorry, I'm just going.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So if there's key support at $2, it's a breakout of 250. It's a breakout 250, just broke out. It held and it's coming back down to 265. If there's support 250, but you also know that stocks don't move perfectly, you might get in at 260, maybe a quarter size, and then give it to size in for like 240-ish, 245. Right. And that way, if it goes to 250 and hits 249, you're not heart beating. Right. You're sitting there and watching it. Yeah. With the question of, what's everyone thinking right now? Like, what's everyone doing? Like, is everyone panicking out or is everyone confused?
Yeah.
And then if it looks confused, you're like, well, no one knows where it's going to go yet. So why am I going to get out? Why am I going to add? But then boom, it chooses a side, add, or it chooses a side. You know what? I'm going to get out. And now it's a smaller loss because I got out 249 instead of 245 or 240. And I was sizing a quarter because I'm testing my toe to make sure that this is the puddle of water that is a puddle and it's not a fucking manhole, like, like that's what you're trying to make sure. So that's I don't know if that's helpful.
No, it definitely is. It definitely is. I've experimented with that a little bit, but I can definitely do a better job of starting with smaller size for sure.
If you're going to do full size, give it room.
Yeah.
So that way you don't just take a unnecessary full size loss. You could do the same idea with full size, but then like you maybe give it to 140, but you'll say, I'll look at what happens at 150. And if it starts to hold 150, I'm saying if it starts to hug under like 145, 146, 145, you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna get out here and cut my losses even less, because because it's already under the key zone. Like why would I stay in it? And it's hugging it under.
Right.
I'm probably wrong.
Yeah.
So like you can play with it. And that's the thing about risk. Like for the longest time, I had the impression, I think it's just the evolution of trading. Like when you're new, you don't know anything. So you just think you don't know, you don't have no rules. But then when you think about stops, you think, oh, it has to right here. Here's support. By golly, support. Oh, you know what? That means it's the floor. I was taught the floor shouldn't break. So when the floor breaks, I'm out.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. you know, like
that floor is sand.
It's a trampoline.
Water.
It's a trampoline. Yeah. It goes like this. And sometimes someone jumps too heavy on it and it breaks.
Right.
And that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I got you. Definitely makes sense. Definitely helpful. Another thing I was curious about, kind of on the same note, is I feel like my like strategy that I just explained to you shows up, and you even said it. You said it sounds like my setup shows up more frequently than yours, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't want that. I want to be one of those traders that takes maybe one or two high probability, under five, high probability, strong, really feel good about this. Even if I'm going to get in small and add to it, but just have that confidence when I add. It's like, I only do 5 of these a day. This is one of those 5, But now you're right. My strategy shows up so much. And what do you think about what I listed in terms of like my day and my strategy? Like, what else could I add to that?
I would say, first off, maybe, this is my opinion. I would say maybe be careful with that thought process. Think about this, about the thought process of, I want to be that trader who only trades 1 trade or 2 trades a day with a high, probability of winning. So that way, basically you just don't want to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, think more. I think what you're doing, if you're doing it and then you have a 40% win rate and there's often trades, well, great. Because I would love that. Because at the end of the day, to me, the more trades you can do that are actually quality trades, the higher probability you're going to have of success, right? At the end of the day, because there's no difference other than if mine shows up once a day and yours shows up 10 times a day and it's the exact same probability and exact, it's not. Yeah. Eventually I'm going to get 100 trades in. You will quicker. Right.
So, no, I see what you're saying.
It doesn't matter at that moment.
If it's odds, then ideally you're hitting those odds as often as possible.
Yes.
If they're favorable odds.
Yes.
But it makes me think about it when like people like you who, I think you said earlier, and I've heard you say before, like there's times you take like 5 trades a month or something. It's like, that
was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I remember that's whenever I was just doing one setup. That's all I'm going to do. And I wasn't trading price action. As I'm growing and freaking trying to relearn this basically for price action trading, it's just very different from what I used to trade.
Right.
I trade a lot more often. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's just different, you know, like it's just different. Like my favorite setup of all time that I will always trade
Pump and
was
gap and crap.
yeah, or is HX pretty much like what that's getting ready to do. Like it's squeezing everyone right now. It's about it's like at $20 after hours, and it was from down and it was down at like I don't know what price it was down to, but it went nuts.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
From $2 to $20. Okay, that is my favorite strategy. So basically, I'll be watching that like a hawk.
Yeah.
For a potential reversal.
Right.
And I will be shorting that.
Hey,
so
if I was short, I would too. That it makes so much sense to me, like watching I think they call it the backside.
Yeah.
Like this is obviously coming down, right? At some point, but that's another, like a whole nother topic. But should I get over PDT purely so that I could short? Because maybe I'm like, you used to describe yourself, which is you longed when you first started, right? And then you short and realized you're just not a long trader. Maybe I'm a short trader, but I can't tell that unless I go over PDT. But at the same time, I have this rule, which I'm relatively proud of, which is I'm not going to mess with margin or anything like that until I prove that I'm ready for it. So it's like,
just prove yourself first and stick to a plan, right?
Yeah.
You got to stick to a plan, because let me tell you this, short selling is although I like it more in terms of like, it just seems more obvious to me.
Yeah.
Longs, in my opinion, maybe because I'm just not the best short seller, but my longs are they're way bigger winners, because longs because you could be at the beginning of this, like this stock went from 2 to 20, so that's nuts. And if you can hold it, you can make it's crazy. So I think longs I have more favor towards them now. Shorts, I do see them easier, not easier, but they're easier to spot. But at the same time, they're not easy to trade, because you're going to have the same problems. But the difference is when shit goes against you on the short side, there's not many people in the game who are shorting, whereas there's more in the game who are buying. So like when things are panicking, you might have a chance to get out, whereas shorting, you better have super strict discipline and stick to your plan, because if you do not, you'll lose more than what you put in, and that can suck. That can suck.
Yeah, I can imagine. Cool.
But if you do that, like, just know, like, you go through a broker, and if you do, you could still short real small, and you could still risk $1 or $2, but you won't make. But remember, with shorting, you pay commissions. You pay, so like you're gonna be losing money every day, even though you're practicing. So just know. That's why I say focus on process. So people who are in that situation, they're not focused on net, they're focused on gross, because they are short sellers, but they're not making money. They're consistent green, gross, not minus commit, because they're trying to learn, like, who gives a shit at the end of the day, as long as you can get consistent. So just know that if you're going to go that direction, like that's in that door, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then they charge monthly fees, and like they're not expensive by any means who's listening to this, but it is different if you're like trying to risk real small, like, just know you're going to be losing more money than you would with E-Trade, right? Because E-Trade's free to trade. So, and if you're going along, you're not wasting no money.
I'm on Thinkorswim.
Exactly. So like it's free to trade. Like, why would I leave that? I wouldn't.
Right.
If I was a long bias only, I wouldn't.
Right. Yeah. No, it makes sense. I'll chill out with that and get patient. And, I keep needing to like reel myself in and just figure this out first and then branch out. Like all the people that I talk to, like even my wife's like, why aren't you buying Bitcoin and stuff? It's like, I am laser focused on getting this figured out. I shouldn't be focusing on short. I shouldn't be focusing on, crypto, things like that. Like I want to hone in on this. And then once I have this figured out, start kind of expanding to, other areas. So sometimes I get excited and start asking about shorting, and then somebody like you, like, chill out, dude, figure this out first, So
it's good to have friends like that, because at the end of the day, like, I think it's important to know that like every lane, although trading universally is the same principles everywhere, whether it's Bitcoin, shorting, longing, there is nuances on every style, like every commodity, like what am I trying to say? Every vehicle, right? There's equities, commodities, there's Forex, Bitcoin. Like there's nuances in each one.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that until you only focus on that. And you're like, oh, wow, like this is not like shorting is not like, I know people say like, if you're just bad at buying, just reverse the chart and short it. It's not really the case. Like it's unique. It's different. There's some nuances that make entries a little different than it is on the long side and vice versa. So but we have time for like, if you want to ask one more question, then we can wrap this up. Let me know.
I would just, are you a part of V-Trader?
I'm not. So of course, like I'm friends with him. I'm not a part of any community. Like I don't join any, I have access to those, right? But I'm not in them. So like, you'll never see me in them because I just choose to be solo because I know for me, it works out better that way. So personally,
that's perfect. I mean, that's a great response. And that's exactly why I asked the question. So all these, even though I've been a part of a number of these rooms, most recently V-Trader, for whatever reason, I never take their calls. I rarely, very rarely. And I do that because, like I told you earlier, I feel a lot better when I kind of find things myself, right? As a new trader kind of in my position, do you think I should take more calls and trade them kind of my way?
Oh, hell no.
Or not? No?
I don't think you ever should take calls. Like never.
Right.
Ever.
I'm not talking like Zach Morris calls. I'm talking like
I don't care
Steve
who it
calls.
Is. I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
Never. Like, because that is the biggest slippery slope. And that is also the quickest way to frustration. And if you don't believe me, do it. Like, if you don't believe me, do it. Just and because then you'll start to question, how come this guy's killing and I can't?
Right.
Because it fits him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the other thing. Like, me and Scott sometimes will trade the exact same stock. And sometimes we'll both short it. But maybe I held it way longer, or maybe he did, or maybe he had a weird ass entry. Maybe I had a weird ass entry according to him, but we both made money, or maybe I lost and he won, or maybe he lost and I won. Like, it's so random in every trader as well. Like, I don't care if we both look at the same stock, trade it. I'm short, you're short. Okay, cool. Like, we all are dealing with different things inside of us, right? And how we act. Yeah. And how he holds a trade, or whoever, and they insert their name there, is not going to be the same that you trade. And you don't know what size he's sizing in, but you might size like thinking he's sizing this, and maybe I should do this. And then you get shaken out. And like, why did I get shaken? And it could take you down a path that it's better to look at it after the day's over. Yeah. And maybe question, like, what was it? Right. Maybe that, but I would not suggest, I just would never suggest that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'll keep doing what I'm doing, which is now pretty much like their calls are like a watch list for me. If he's looking at this and I'm
that's fine. If there's a watch list, that's fine.
Yeah.
I would say though, I would say as fast as you can, get away from that. Like your goal is to find yourself, because eventually you're going to be reading someone's watch list and you might read what they say about it. And then you might have a different thought, but you don't execute on your thought because you respect that person. And then that happens enough times and you were right, you're going to be frustrated.
For sure. Yeah. Because you're going to hold it against that person, right?
Or at yourself, because it's your fault. And at the end of the day, like you might even take the other side of the position. Like I think I'm jaded because I hear them. Let me try this. And then you're like mad at yourself, mad at you lost, and you never would have taken that. And you're just like frustrated, or maybe you just don't even take it at all. And because you were worried that maybe that other opinion might have leaked into your mind. You're like, I don't want to buy here after all. Wait. And then it was the best spot of the day. Like I was told by some guys who I really respect, who I can never talk down on, and really humble dude, but I won't say his name, but he was like, I wouldn't be short. I wouldn't be long that stock. One time, it was a long time ago. And I thought I had the best entry. I thought it was the best setup. Yeah. And I was like, hey man, what do you think? Yeah. He goes, nah, man, I would not be long that. Right. So I got out for like a 3-cent gain. I was long, and that thing went up to like $3 a share right after, after. I'll never forget that.
Right. Yeah.
Because I was like, I would have been up. Like, great.
Right.
So, and at that time I was an idiot. I was sizing in stupid size with no experience, but I was like, oh my God. So like, I would just learn that, everyone trades different. Everyone trades different. And, and how many times have I been in a trade long and Scott was short? And I'm only using his name because you brought him up, but like,
right.
And we both made money a lot of times.
Right.
But if we would have talked, he wouldn't give a shit. But I might, like, if I would have talked to him and he'd been like, yeah, I'm short that, you're long. I'm like, oh, maybe I should have,
So you got did I say long? I meant no, I'm short it too. Yeah.
I meant I'm cash. I'm watching.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it.
For sure. Right. It's my demo account. Yeah.
All right, man. Hey, Matt, I appreciate you, brother. It was it was fun. I'm hoping that you got some help here today, and thank you for just, instilling some trust and reaching out, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll do it again. I really appreciate
that, man. Awesome, brother. Hey, have a good day.